What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Auto 101. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another car review. And I am super excited about the car that we're reviewing today because I happen to think it's one of the most interesting looking mainstream family SUVs on the market. Today we're taking a look at the 2025 Hyundai Santa Fe. And it's a mid-size SUV in Hyundai's lineup. Let's see how it stacks up as a family SUV, a family crossover in 2025. Let's get into it. The Hyundai Santa Fe has typically been Hyundai's mid-size crossover. There was a time when it was the biggest SUV that the brand produced, but since the Palisade, even the Veracruz before that, the Santa Fe has definitely occupied the mid-size space. But it was always a little bit of an in-betweener because it was only a little bit bigger than the Tucson in some generations, but it was marketed as a bigger SUV. So people were often inclined to either just go with the Tucson or step up to the Palisade, and the Santa Fe was kind of in this like mid-level limbo, and it's sold on price. With this generation Santa Fe, Hyundai placed a big emphasis on giving the car its own identity, and the biggest thing they did to do that was give it a very unique design, both on the outside and the inside. Now, I'm not going to say that this design is copying anybody, but I will definitely say that this design is very inspired. It's the word I'll use. And I'll put some comparison photos up on the screen, and I'll let you draw your own conclusions as to where Hyundai got their design inspirations from. Talk about a few of the things that I like about the car, a few of the things that I didn't like driving it over the last few weeks. In terms of the positives or the pros, I do actually really enjoy the design. I think it's a very unique looking car. Like I said, it's inspired, but it still has its own design flair where it doesn't look like a direct copycat, but it also doesn't look boring. I think it has good road presence, especially for a mainstream mid-size crossover. The front looks a little bit derivative, but I really enjoy the rear end styling because it's a lot more unique. The lights are really low down in the body. That's not a very common styling trait or styling element, and it really gives the Santa Fe a unique look on the road. I don't know how practical or safe it is, especially for the reverse lights, because they really are very low in the body. I don't know if they're super visible all the time, but at least it looks unique, it looks interesting. And I also think the door treatment, the roof treatment, all of it looks very unique for a car in this category. It definitely has a more truck-like vibe than the previous generation Santa Fe, even though it's only a little bit bigger. It's like 2 inches bigger in length and 2 inches longer in wheelbase. So not a drastic change, but definitely a drastic change in style. I think Hyundai, again, has done a good job of making the Santa Fe stand out and to give people a little bit more pizzazz than what they're seeing in the mainstream crossover class, even if it is more than a little bit inspired by some more well-known luxury vehicles. If we move on to the interior of the Santa Fe now, I think this is where a lot of the pros of the car come into place, because this really is a spacious cabin. Again, for a car that hasn't really grown that much generation to generation, with that 2-inch growth in length, the interior feels absolutely huge. It's a 3-row crossover. The third row isn't the biggest, but it's nice to have that there. And there's also some nice amenities in that third row because people back there can adjust their own climate, which is a nice feature to have. The second row is very spacious, tons of headroom, tons of knee room, tons of shoulder room, so you can fit people comfortably in the second row. Also, Hyundai really has thought a lot about the practicality and cargo capability of the Santa Fe, because that second row has 3 cup holders in each door panel and 2 cup holders in the fold down center seat. So that's 8 cup holders in the middle row for 3 people. That's a lot of drinks. Moving up to the front row, again, the steering wheel is very inspired. I'll put a picture right here so I can compare the 2 steering wheels. But the rest of the front is very nice. Good quality materials for the most part. I'm not a fan of the silvery plastic that Hyundai has used to imitate metal. It works on a quick glance, but if you look at it for too long, you can tell it's plastic, and it also has a bit of a cheap kind of feeling to it, chintzy feeling to it, but it looks good on a passing glance. The rest of the materials, though, are very high quality, nice leatherette on top of the dash. Very well designed. I can put my arm up here. Definitely feels like I'm high up when I'm driving the car, so a good truck-like driving position, commanding view of the road. Great infotainment, like sincerely amazing infotainment. Fast CarPlay, fast Android Auto, Really clean, simple menus in the Hyundai native apps. Wired CarPlay, wireless CarPlay. Really good infotainment system. The XRT model doesn't have a full-fledged digital dash, but it does have a pseudo-digital dash with kind of fixed speedometer and tachometer gauges and a little customizable display in the middle. So a good balance in between having a digital dash and an old-school dash. I also really like the center console buttons. There's physical buttons for climate control. There's physical buttons for radio. Sorry, I said physical buttons for climate control, but really what I mean is dedicated controls for climate control. They still are capacitive touch buttons, but it's nice to not have all that buried inside the infotainment. It's easily accessible right here. Capacitive touch, sure, not the best, but better than having it nestled in the display for sure. One thing though, this particular Santa Fe has 35,000 miles. It's a 1-year-old rental car, so not the easiest life, but neither the two front seats, the heated seats don't work in the front at all. Like, they just don't work. The thing makes a beep, no light goes on, there's no heat coming up from the seats. It has no working heated seats. Maybe someone can help me out in the comment as to why these aren't working. But they just don't turn on. This car only has 35,000 miles. These should still be working. There shouldn't be a situation where these aren't working on a 1-year-old car. Moving below that, there's two USB-C chargers. You can change one of them between a charger only or charger plus CarPlay and an auto connection. So nice little feature. Wireless charging pad. And because they've moved the shifter to the steering wheel, it's enabled a lot of under console storage. So again, a really good emphasis on cargo and on practicality. And in here, in the center console, it's very spacious. You could open it like this. You could also open it the other way from the back, which is very unique. There's also a drawer underneath that people in the second row can open to access stuff that's in the center console. And the center console is so big that it kind of curves underneath the cup holders. And there's like a little bit of extra storage space. So it kind of curves in, people from the back can access it. So really a lot of practical storage space. Things that I haven't liked though in the front are the seating position. I haven't really been able to get super comfortable. I said there is a good commanding view of the road, but I always just feel a little bit too close to the steering wheel. I feel like the seat doesn't go far back enough. And I'm not even someone who likes to drive super far back from the steering wheel, but I still feel like it doesn't go far back enough. About 5'9", 5'10" for reference. So I don't know, people who are taller than me, maybe they're finding other ways to get comfortable, but I definitely struggle to get comfortable from a seating position. While there is a lot of room in the front, I've never been a fan of cup holders that are too close to the center console as opposed to being right up by the dash, because you're kind of reaching back for your drink. It's a little bit distracting while you're driving. If it's right up at the front, it's easier to access. So there's no need for them to do this because the shifter column is here, so maybe they can switch that around. And strictly now from a cargo hauling perspective, Santa Fe fares amazingly well. It has a very square opening to the cargo area, and the seats in the third row fold all the way flat. Seats in the second row fold relatively flat. You get a big storage space. It definitely is a very practical car for moving stuff around. So now let's talk about the way the Santa Fe is on the road from a driving dynamics perspective. First of all, I think the Santa Fe is a great highway cruiser, phenomenal highway cruiser. This car comes with a 2.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, 270 plus horsepower, 310 plus pound-feet of torque. Really just gobs and gobs of torque to get quick like kind of like pull on the highway when you're trying to execute passing maneuvers. That low end grunt really helps with that passing maneuver. And also there's a lot of top end. 270 horsepower is no joke. Just a few generations ago, that was properly sports car horsepower, and now that's horsepower that's available in a mainstream everyday crossover. And you heard that beep. That brings me on to my next point as to why this is a great highway car. It has Hyundai's fantastic active safety systems. It has adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, lane centering assist, and all of it's really nice. Like if you put this on adaptive cruise, if you keep this on lane centering, it does a really good job. It's not full self-drive. You have to keep your hands on the steering wheel and you have to pay attention to the road, and it's looking at you all the time with a little camera. But it really is a very relaxing experience on a long road trip because of those active safety functions and those adaptive cruise and lane keep technologies. Sometimes they bing and bong a little bit too much, but it's better to be a little bit more precautionary instead of being a little bit more careless. And Hyundai has a really good balance of allowing that autonomous feel while still having those safety measures in place. So I'm a big fan of Hyundai Kia's adaptive safety system suite. And that 2.5-liter turbo 4 engine not only has a lot of power, a lot of torque, but it also has really good fuel economy. In pure highway driving, I've been getting close to 30 miles per gallon with this engine, and I mentioned already, a lot of power, a lot of torque. So for an engine like that to be getting this mileage in a car of this size, I think it's actually pretty impressive. And likewise, in city driving, it's also pretty fuel efficient. It has a start-stop system, maybe that helps. It's paired to a 8-speed dual-clutch transmission, and I'm not a fan of this 8-speed dual-clutch transmission, which is why I feel like this car isn't the best city driving experience. And it kind of lurches off the line. It has a little bit of lag. It's a little bit of input lag off a stop, so you put your foot down and there's just like a little bit of hesitation before the transmission kicks into gear. And it's a little bit disconcerting in traffic driving, or when you're stopped at a stop sign or stopped at a stoplight and people are waiting for you to go and there's a little bit of lag. It's not the best feeling. It shifts quickly once it's in the gears and it gets up and going, but definitely in stop and go driving, the transmission is annoying. And pair that with the auto start stop, even though that helps with fuel economy, it is a detriment in day-to-day city driving. And I think Hyundai knew this or figured this out somehow, because for the 2026 model year Santa Fe, they've replaced its 8-speed DCT with a traditional 8-speed torque converter automatic, and that should really help alleviate that issue and make it a better driving experience in the city. This isn't a sports SUV, so it doesn't handle like a sports car or even like a SUV with a focus on enthusiastic performance driving. It's a little bit floaty, a little bit wallowy, kind of like pitches and rolls a lot. So it's comfortable over potholes and on kind of bumpy roads because it's a very smooth ride. It's also comfortable on the highway because it's typically just going straight and smooth. But when you're accelerating and stopping a lot, you kind of end up pitching back and forth because the suspension is so softly sprung. But maybe the new torque converter automatic would help with that too, because it'll smooth out the inputs a bit, reduce some of that pitchiness as well. Steering feel though is actually pretty good. I know a lot of reviewers kind of bemoan Hyundai steering feel for being a little bit too light and a little bit too vague. It is vague. You're not really getting a lot of feedback back from the wheel or from the steering rack, but it's not that light. Like it's light enough to be comfortable to use on the day-to-day, but it's not so light that you feel like you're playing a video game. Like it definitely still has a little bit of resistance and a little bit of feedback coming back to you to keep you in control of the driving experience. So then why should someone buy a Santa Fe compared to all the other crossovers that are out there? I think there's a few reasons. Firstly, a very unique look, and if the fact that it's heavily inspired by another car doesn't bother you, and you like the unique styling in the mainstream crossover segment, this is a huge plus, a huge advantage. Also, I think it operates in a nice little niche. It's not as large as the traditional 3-row SUVs. That's where the Hyundai Palisade comes in. So if you're looking for an occasional use third row, the Santa Fe is great because it's not that large. It's a lot more maneuverable and manageable than those larger SUVs, but it has that third row for when you need it. On top of that, it's very fuel efficient. There's more than enough power for the day-to-day. And it's loaded with really good usable features. Great infotainment, great active safety, a lot of space. Yes, there's some issues, I don't know what's going on with the heated seats, for example. But for the most part, Hyundai has really built a compelling package that occupies a unique space within the crossover segment. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Santa Fe, thoughts on the 3-row crossover market. Thank you for watching. It's the Auto 101. Catch you next time.